The Crownhill Fort in Plymouth, Devon, England is one of the most important of the forts built to defend Plymouth. As early as 1868, when construction was still in progress, Crownhill Fort was considered the most important of the forts built to defend the Plymouth naval base. Today it is equally important, though for reasons of history rather than defense. Unlike the Victorian defences of Portsmouth, which are well cared for and accessible to the public, many of the Plymouth forts have been damaged by conversion to a variety of private uses. Only Crownhill Fort has survived in anything like its original form. In 1987, the Landmark Trust, an architectural restoration charity, recognized the importance of Crownhill Fort and, wishing to give it a secure future, purchased it from the Ministry of Defense. The Trust's intention was not only to ensure the fort's preservation and to restore its original layout as far as possible, but also to open it to visitors so that they might learn and profit from the experience. Crownhill Fort, the largest, most advanced, and least altered of Plymouth's 19th-century forts, commands one of the highest points in the city yet is surprisingly inconspicuous. Though covering 16 acres and surrounded by a broad, deep ditch hewn from bedrock, the fort appears from only a short distance to be nothing but a forested hilltop. There are, however, 4 fighting levels with placements for 32 cannons and 6 mortars, nearly a half-mile of tunnels, and accommodation for 300 soldiers and officers concealed within it. Crownhill Fort was the key to the northeast defences of Plymouth, which stretched from the Tamar River in the west to the Catwater in the east and included 9 other forts and batteries and 1 keep in between. It was built as part of the largest fortress building boom in British history against the perceived threat of French invasion. There were mutual feelings of fear and distrust between the two nations, and after France launched the armoured steam frigate La Gloire in 1858, the British Navy's ability to defend the country was seen to be gravely threatened. Steam power had greatly improved the accuracy and range for artillery. The adoption of explosive shells, combined with ironclad ships, reduced the effectiveness of existing defences. The channel had been an obstacle to sailing ships, but by mid-century was nothing more than a river passable by a steam bridge. In 1859, the Prime Minister, Lord Palmerston, responded to the alarm from a Royal Commission report on the defences of the United Kingdom. The Commission called for a massive fortress building program to protect dockyards and strategic harbours at an estimated cost of £111,850,000. Parliament reduced the scales of the undertaking, but nonetheless by 1867, 76 forts and batteries had been built or were under construction around the principal naval ports of Britain. Over £3 million was spent on the Plymouth defences alone, with Crownhill Fort construction costing £76,000. Crownhill Fort, along with the rest of the northeast defences, was designed by Captain, later Major General, Edmund Duquesne, who also designed Staden Fort, and, with Captain William Crossman, Tregantle Fort. The great advances in military technology enabled them to break from the centuries-old practice of continuous line defences. Each of the forts was designed as a polygon surrounded by a ditch which itself was protected by caponniers, powerful, casemated structures which provided flanking fire across the ditch. Guns, sometimes in casemates, lined the tops of the ramparts, and the barrack blocks within were made bomb-proof by the use of mounded earth. From its completion in 1872 until 1986, Crownhill Fort was under continuous military occupation. Various gun pits remain from World War II, and the fort was used as an assembly point by forces leaving for the Falklands War. The reopening of the grounds at Crownhill Fort. After acquiring the fort in 1987, the Landmark Trust was primarily concerned with the restoration of the grounds. Over the years, changing uses, and indeed lack of use in some cases, led to blockage of pathways and tunnels and altered levels at various points. The covered way and chemin des rondes, the paths around the outside and inside of the ditch respectively, which were badly overgrown and impassable, were cleared and reopened. There is now a public walk nearly 2/3 of a mile long right round the outside. Rifle ranges dating to the 1930s and a post-World War II commando assault course were removed from the ditch and the original levels restored. Modern buildings around the parade ground were demolished and hundreds of yards of tunnels were limewashed. More recently, attention has been turned to the buildings. Several of these are now let to local businesses for storage and office space. In the soldiers' and officers' quarters, doors and windows have been repaired and air vents unblocked and their earth roofs replaced, and you can now stay in accommodation created in the officers' quarters. Crownhill Fort was part of the Victorian fort building boom. In the 1860s, it was decided to protect naval bases, such as Plymouth, from attack by land as well as by sea. A chain of forts was built, with Crownhill in the key position to the north of the city. It is now one of only 2 large forts of this kind in the country to remain in good condition. From a distance, the fort blends with the hilltop, defended not by walls but by steep earth ramparts. These enfold the central parade ground, around which are handsome quarters for up to 300 men. For further protection, the buildings and many of the emplacements for 32 large guns have turf roofs, some restored by us. Outside the ramparts is a deep dry ditch, 30 feet wide at the bottom, which could be covered by protective fire from a Chemin de Ronde, and 6 3-story covered defensive structures called caponiers, reached from inside the fort by tunnels. In 1995, the fort was opened to the public for the first time, and in 1998 it was once more armed with a Moncrief disappearing gun, one of only 2 working examples in the world. Officers' quarters Crownhill fascinates the enthusiast and the novice alike. It is also a remarkably pleasant place to be. The officers' quarters, in which you stay, face south. The kitchen has a large window and a commanding view of the comings and goings. Above all, you have free run of this spectacular structure of stone and earth.
I just wanted to add that I have actually stayed at Crownhill Fort back in about 2012. It was me and 7 of my friends. We went and we did we had it for the weekend. I think it was about £500 for the entire weekend, which was 4 nights, long weekend. And we got to shut the drawbridge ourselves at night and lock the door, because there's a handful of little businesses that mostly just office space that need to get in. But we really had a lot of fun. We did like a murder mystery weekend, and you can go down into all those tunnels, and there's a lot of them. I think it's over a mile of tunnels. And there are lights that you can turn on, and you can have lights at night. There were a couple areas that were flooded that might have been fixed since then, because it's been about 11 years since I was there. So like when you started getting down some of the lower levels in the fort, you couldn't go any further because the water had come up a little bit. But just a ton of things to look at. It's just amazing. And if you're into like haunted type things, I'd say there's a little bit of a feeling there. One of the guys and I went out to have a cigarette, and we were just standing out there kind of in the middle area, and he saw something up by where all the cannons are, and he got so scared he just ran, just took off running, left me out there by myself. But it's a lot of fun. Definitely check it out. There's places like this all over the UK. The National Trust owns them, and when you pay your fees that you pay to stay there, it goes for the upkeep of these buildings. So it's really important to visit them, and so they can afford to keep them in such great, fabulous condition. This place is just in fabulous condition. All right, well, I've blathered on enough now, but I just wanted to add that, highly, highly, highly recommend staying at Crownhill Fort.